In the military, we all had the same playbook, so we always spoke the same language. And leading in civilian is like showing up to football practice where half of them haven't read the playbook and 2 of them thought they were showing up to bowling night. Like, it's just complete chaos.
And welcome back to Vegas Veteran Voices, the podcast where we do things a little bit differently by talking to vets who do unique things for either passion, purpose, or therapy. Today we're talking with Caitlin Duffy. She is the VA loan nerd. Army veteran, served in 2003?
2003 to 2013.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
fun years.
why the Army in the first place? What brought you there?
This is always a funny story. People always ask. So my parents are both highly educated and born and raised in San Luis Obispo, California. Dad's a judge. Mom was in nursing and went to Catholic school, K through 12, very wholesome childhood.
Mm-hmm.
My dad really wanted me to go to law school. And looking back, I would have been a great prosecutor. I love to argue. But school just wasn't my thing. It wasn't my passion. I was kind of a wallflower. I matured late. And I remember it being like junior year, and my dad was like, all right, this is the year for grades. We got to focus. You got to go to, Notre Dame, or, he's throwing out all these colleges. And it just wasn't for me. So I went to school the next day. It's probably like September of junior year.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of the guys in my class said, hey, we're going to the recruiting office. We're going to go and join the Army. You want to go? I was like, sure. So I did. I went, and obviously later, like, parents had to sign because I was still 17.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, at that moment, I was like, you know what? The military is the right fit for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to stay at home. I don't want to go to college, but I need a path. And I would do it again a million times over.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see the world a little bit, too. I remember you mentioning something about Germany.
My first duty station was Germany,
Yeah.
so I was stationed there for 3 years. Did a couple of Iraq deployments in between there. But how fun to be 18 years old, living in Kitzingen, Germany, and having a 3-day weekend and having everybody be like, hey, let's meet at the train station and go to Rome for the weekend.
Yeah.
Grab a bag. I
Mhm.
traveled all of Western Europe because we had 3 days almost every weekend. We had a pretty cool command. I got to travel. We would just get on a train and get off in 5 hours wherever that stop may be. At 18, 19, 20 years old, I mean, you can't beat that. You can't even pay for that kind of experience.
Oh, no. And what part of Germany, like on the map, if you had Germany right in front of you?
South of Frankfurt, so in like the Black Forest, so south-ish,
Okay.
mid-south. Mm-hmm.
Because I've been to Cologne. I went last year, and Germany is a trip. I'll tell you that.
It's fun.
But there's not a huge culture shock between Germany and the United States. We have a lot of commonalities between it, other than language.
Correct. I always tell people, if you're new to traveling, which I am not now, but if somebody really wants to do an international trip, I say, depending on your level of comfortable, do the Ireland, England, stuff like that, because they speak English, right?
Yeah.
But if you want a little bit more culture without the language or with the language barrier, go to Germany all day long. They are basically Americans. They're loud, they're fun, they're friendly. You could walk up and everybody's like, hey, bro. Like, it's very cool. I love Germans. I love Germany. It's a great place to travel. I would recommend it to anybody. It's a cool place.
I mean, the one culture shock I did experience is we went out for breakfast. We went to this nice, cute little spot right next to the cathedral, and we get there, and we start ordering. He's like, whoa, 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 slow down. It's like, what? He's like, what do you want to drink? I was like, oh, we'll just do water. She's like, water?
Yeah.
This is Deutschland.
Yeah.
This is Germany.
Mhm.
So 2 beers. I was like, it's like 9:30 in the morning.
Right.
He's like, I'll bring you beers.
I love it. Yes. Well, and that's just Europe in general. Now that I'm fairly well traveled, that when you get there, I am a water drinker. So when I get there, I always say it's like I would like a bottle, and they charge you, $12 for a bottle of still water, and where you could get a bottle of wine for $8.
Mhm.
So depending on my level of vacation, typically I just get the bottle of wine. I mean, there's water in wine, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't do water. They don't do ice water. That's always fun. And then like the twist tops, there's lots of European things that are fun when you get home. You're like, oh, thank God. Sit down and somebody give me a glass of ice, please.
So outside of the fun of Europe,
Mm-hmm.
tell me about your work life there a little bit.
I had a very interesting military career.
Hmm.
So my first duty station, which was a great one, I was in first ID and I was in the maintenance unit. So the job that I started out with the military was 92 Alpha. So I was logistics. So I went in as supply and got assigned to the motor pool. So I always tell people I was basically like the front desk of like Jiffy Lube. Like I ordered the parts, I checked in the vehicles, I checked out the vehicles, I scheduled the maintenance.
Yeah.
Basically, I like ran a maintenance shop, but on the office standpoint. And then the deployments, we were basically like the AAA of Iraq. So we would go and recover vehicles off of convoys in the streets and then bring them back, and our shop would fix them up and get them engines rebuilt and get it all put back together and give them back to their units.
One little tidbit that I do love that I heard from someone in the mafia, the Filipino mafia,
Okay.
is trucks don't drive and birds don't fly without supply.
Oh, yeah, I like that. That's a good one. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we basically just were able to keep all of the maintenance units and the truck drivers going during all of those. So it's the AAA is basically who I worked for, but in Iraq. And then the second part, I was a 50 cal gunner. So I helped pull security for lots of convoys. So I always tell people if I wasn't in the motor pool, I was hanging out the turret of a Humvee for years.
Sounds like a trip.
Yeah, it was fun.
Like one of those things where you look back and you're like, is this a memory or is this something I watched in a movie?
I think about that all day long, especially because I have 2 TBIs and 3 concussions.
Yes.
And so my memory is completely shot. And so I feel like half of the stories that I tell, I'm remembering because I told the story once before. I don't actually have the memory of it anymore. So it's almost like I read my autobiography and I'm now regurgitating it and I actually don't remember it.
Which is a real feeling for a lot of people. But I'm sure there's some things that you do remember and you do remember strongly.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen the movie Inside Out, right?
I have not.
It's the scene where all the memories are rolling down and you have the little balls for each memory.
Mm-hmm.
You have core memories.
Okay.
Do you have any core memories from your time in the service that you hold dear and true to your heart?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You want one?
Yeah, absolutely.
3rd or 4th deployment, I was in an AGR unit out of Colorado at this point. And at that point, I was part of like a specialty program where I was deploying on my own and it's getting attached to other units. So I was going on like 8-week deployments, but I do 8 weeks on, 8 weeks off. And I did that for like a year and a half. And I still remember one of those 8-week deployments. It was probably the only time in the military where I got really close to the other people in it, and I'll come back to that. But the 2 other girls that I was with, we just became really tight. And I still remember that was the first time, I was probably 23 years old, 24 years old. And that was the first time I'd had like real girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
And I still look back on that 8-week deployment and just remember that like that is where I learned how to like be a good female friend, develop good relationships, that those relationships do matter, especially on deployments. Because before that, I was very like hyper independent and almost like in an unhealthy way. And I still remember just like I have this funny core memory of the 3 of us sitting on the floor with our rucksacks on, just like giggling and laughing hysterically like 23-year-olds do. And for some reason, I can remember what the air smelled like thinking about that memory of us just sitting there. And it's just this very sweet, innocent moment that nothing happened. But for some reason, that memory is completely stuck with me.
And it's those little moments that you keep with you that remind you that life is beautiful and worth living. Because those things that hold you and ground you is what sets you forth and keeps you going when things get rough and tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after the military, did you jump right into lending or what's the story there?
Yes. So I was stationed at Fort Bragg. So was my ex-husband. So we were both there at Fort Bragg. And then I was in an AGR unit at the time and decided to get out. But kind of last minute, it was a little tumultuous the way that it all happened. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, you are now out of the military in 3 months. And I didn't think that when I pulled that trigger, it was going to happen so quickly. So I remember looking at my husband at the time and being like, what are we going to do? We need to be dual income. And he said, well, I don't know. I guess you better figure it out. We had just purchased a home maybe 6 months prior. And my mortgage lender at the time was very good at his job and kept in touch with me really good. And at the time, we didn't have DocuSign. So I got to know my lender while buying a house because I was going to his office to sign stuff and bring him paperwork. And it wasn't as digital as it is now. And so he and I developed a relationship. So I remember calling him and saying, hey, I'm getting out. I don't really know what to do. Like, should I go back to college? Like, I need advice. And he said, come down here and answer phones for me or something like that. I had a relationship with a real estate agent at the time. I was helping her with some transaction coordinator stuff just a couple hours a week.
Oh, yeah. Just a little TC stuff here
Exactly.
and there.
And he said, come down here, answer phones, do something, but I'll give you a full-time job. So I started with him like 3 days later, got licensed right away. And I ended up working for that company for almost 10 years. So it was not my goal originally to be a mortgage lender. I actually always thought that I would never be in sales. I would never be commission. I would never want to network as a living. I was very I was a great assistant. I'm very high attention to detail and transaction oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always thought that I would stay on that side. But working for him for a couple of years, I think I kind of came into my maturity and getting away from the military was good for me at the time. And just all of a sudden realized, ooh, I think that I could do this whole sales thing.
Yeah.
So when I say I fell into it, legit, I fell into it. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
And one thing I've learned a little bit from talking with you, you say sales. However, that's a very crude way of describing it because when you're good at your job as a lender, I'm sure you know, you're not selling anything. You're being a servant leader.
Right.
And that feels like the vibe that I get off of you from the conversations we have is that you really put the clients forward. You really put the whole process of the transaction and make it simple and easy to digest because there's so many convoluted parts of real estate. You don't need to overcomplicate anything else.
Absolutely. Yes, you're right. My buyer experience is impeccable, and it is the most important part of my job.
Yeah.
I want a homeowner to come to me and not know anything about buying a house and to think that it was probably never even possible for them. And I want to educate them because that's my number one passion is education.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hold their hand. I don't mind answering the same question 3 times. I'm very patient and empathetic. And I realize that, it's an overwhelming experience even if you've done it 10 times. So I love my buyer experience from the first time I talk to them until a year later when I'm saying, hey, here's what an escrow analysis is. Hey, have you changed your air filters? This is what it means to be a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the quick transaction, the transaction of in and out. So when it comes to my clients, absolutely. I definitely focus on the experience for them and making sure that they're happy and comfortable and it's exciting. I want it to be fun. I love first-time home buyers. I love that. The sales side of it is one, most lenders in general, we all have the same products, we all have the same pricing, we all have the same rates in general. So why are you going to pick me over somebody else?
Yeah.
And that's where that sales comes in. That's where being able to read somebody's personality when they call me, if somebody calls me and they're a high D, high C on the disc, they don't want all the warm and fuzzy, how was your weekend? So I'm salesy and good at kind of mimicking them and getting to the point. Here are the facts, here's your numbers, here's what this, paperwork looks like, yes or no. They want to move quick and I can kind of mimic that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll get a client that's a high S on the disc and I can immediately because I'm a fast talker, obviously. I can immediately hi, how was your weekend? How many kids do you have? What's your dog's name? And I can kind of bring out that personality in them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where the sales comes in, just to be able to mimic and mirror a client to make sure they feel comfortable. It's not my personality, it's their personality. So how can I make you feel more comfortable is me mimicking. And that's where a good salesperson does that naturally without even realizing that they are.
Now, for anyone watching that hasn't seen your other videos, has never been to one of your talks, what is the disc? What is it actually on a conceptual level?
So the disc, it's basically a personality test, but it's a communication test. So it teaches you, it's DISC, and there's lots of different personality tests out there. This is just the one that I like, and it's basically the easiest to understand. It basically just says that all people fall into one of these categories, usually too high, too low. And based on where they are in that category is how, as a salesperson or anybody in customer service or anybody trying to relate, if you can read that person's disc right away and you can mimic theirs, you're going to have a better form of communication. So I do teach the disc. I teach it to people in sales, real estate agents. I've taught it to car dealerships before. And I've given examples. If somebody walks in and exhibits A, B, and C traits, guess what? That means they're a high D, and this is how you respond. So it's basically just teaching people in sales how to understand the personality traits.
I love that.
It's fun.
With that, we're going to take a brief break. And when we get back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what you need to look out for using a VA loan.
Okay.
And we're back. So we mentioned that there's some things you want to know about VA loans. And what I want to do is do some myth busting, because there is a lot of misinformation that makes me mad.
Yes.
About VA loans. And that's the whole reason I got my real estate license in the first place. So why don't you share a few that you've heard back and forth, and what can we do to dispel them?
I have a whole list. Oh my gosh. The amount of misinformation out there about VA loans is ridiculous. And those of us that are good at it, and those of us that study this and do it as our full-time job, we sit together and we're like, how do we get rid of these misconceptions? And it's like, I don't know. Like, how many podcasts and reels and videos can you do? And then you find this person that's, like, oh, well, I don't want to use my VA loan because I want to save it for retirement because I can only use it once.
Mm-mm.
And I'm like, you are 26 years old. Who told you that? Like,
Yeah.
It's so frustrating because I don't know what we as a community are doing wrong to not get all of this misinformation just squashed. So first of all, you can use your VA loan as many times as you want.
Yes.
The fact that you can use it once, I hear that at least once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so frustrating because I almost want to say, who told you that? Give me their phone number so I can call them and yell at them, because they probably told 10 other people that believed you.
Yeah.
That you can only use it one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Also not true. I have 3 on mine right now. My certificate of entitlement has 3 VA loans. Let me think. That you can't refinance into a conventional. You absolutely can. That's the best part.
I mean, refinancing is just starting a whole new loan,
Yes.
like at the core of it.
You're paying off the old loan
Mhm.
and you're getting a new loan with a different loan type. It's just a refinance. It's normal. But some people, real estate agents actually are the ones that say that you can't do that.
Yeah.
Let's think.
My favorite one is the VA home loan inspection is going to stop the buying process and put all the brakes down because it's the worst thing in the world. No.
Right.
Honestly, it protects both sides more than anything else because they're thorough, but they're really not that much different than any other home inspection.
Absolutely. The VA appraisal is like 1% more strict than a conventional.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same as FHA and USDA. It's all the government products.
Mhm.
They want you to buy it as a primary residence. Therefore, they want you to be able to move into it. So no safety issues, no hazards. I don't understand why that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why the home needing to be move-in ready because you want to move into it with your family is a problem. And I do kind of explain it a little bit like a strict dad, where you're like, sometimes it's annoying, sometimes you want to roll your eyes, but also they're looking out for your best interest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no, they don't want you to buy a house where the carpet is rolled up and it's a tripping hazard. Well, why would you want to do that anyway?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just they're looking out for your best interest. Yeah, the thing that gets me is listing agents that say, well, VA loans are more of a risk. So if I'm comparing a VA loan offer and a conventional loan offer, the conventional one's better. And they can't explain to me why. The VA loan, technically, you don't have to do a down payment, but you could. I have people do 10, 15, 20% down on VA loans all day long because there are benefits to it. And the appraisal is what, is your house move-in ready? Yes? Then it'll be fine. Now tell me why. Why is one better than the other? They're identical. I mean, the appraisal process of getting the appraisal is actually easier on VA because if it's going to come in short, they give you a heads up. So they give you a tidewater. They give you a chance to argue it. And then they give you a third chance to go above the appraisal's head and go straight to VA. And our team, we have like a 91% success rate in going behind the appraiser's back, basically, and getting the new value approved.
Now, that's a new thing, right? Doing the Tidewater?
Tidewater's been around for a while, but going above and beyond
Mhm.
once it actually comes in after the Tidewater, if it still comes in low, then being able to go to the RLC and basically give your reasoning on why this home is best for this buyer, that's fairly new. And we are really good at it.
I mean, there's a couple other new things that have popped off recently, like predatory lending processes after the credits run and putting a stop to that.
The trigger leads.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, trigger leads. Thank you so much for signing that into law. So, trigger leads is basically the credit bureaus sell somebody's information when they get their credit checked by a mortgage company.
Yes.
So I have lost deals because somebody will come to me to get pre approved. We run their credit, and then Experian sells their information, and they get 4,000 phone calls from all these like crappy online lenders.
Hmm.
And then they will text me and say, I can't believe you sold my information. Don't ever call me again. I'm like, it wasn't me. It's the credit bureaus that are doing it. As of, I think, September 5th, that is now illegal. I don't know if it's come into play yet, but it's illegal. They cannot sell your information. So it helps a lot with that predatory, these crappy online lenders from, I think some of them are overseas. Like it's not a real connection.
I mean, that's the way it should be in the first place. That never should have been allowed in the first place. People think of credit bureaus, and a lot of them think that they're government agencies. No, these are for-profit businesses.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh.
Yeah, they drive me crazy, that's for sure. But that's on any loan product. That's not just VA.
I
So
know.
thank God those are illegal now. Another myth. Let's see. So something that's changed fairly recently, well, I guess like the last decade,
Yeah.
but talk to any real estate agent that's been in the business for more than 15 years, they still think that the seller has to pay for termite.
No.
That's not true. It used to be, absolutely, but I think that changed in like 2015. So it's been 10 years, guys. Catch on that anyone can pay for the termite. There are rules on how much percentage the buyer can pay in lender required fees.
Mhm.
And the termite is a lender required fee. So if your lender is really expensive and they charge a lot of fees, then you're right, that termite might have to fall on the seller. But if you go with a normal local lender, our fees are not nearly high enough to hit that cap. So it's never been an issue.
And I'm not going to name drop any, but there are a ton of these bigger corporation lenders that you really don't have that face-to-face interaction with. And that's why when I have my clients, when I give them the list of lenders that I give, because I always give 4 lender options every single time, that you want to have someone that you can go grab a cup of coffee with. You want to have someone that can walk you through that process and not feel like a number in a system at a call center.
Correct. So lending and real estate, this is a relationship business.
Mhm.
And although my job is a little bit more on the digital side, there's lots of times I don't actually meet my clients in person. But the relationship is still there, which is why we focus so much on the buyer experience. I want to talk to my clients for 20, 30, 40 minutes before sending them the application. I want to offer to Zoom with them once we're running over pre-approval numbers and be like, hey, this is what all of this means. This is escrow. This is your insurance. This is your taxes. I want to explain everything. And I want to develop that level of trust to where they know I'm not just trying to sell them.
Mhm.
And so I do say that, this is why I use my cell phone. Lots of lenders have said, no, you should get a team phone number. And that way it goes to, your assistant can use it and you can go on vacations and all of that, which sounds good. Absolutely. But it goes against my entire business model of the fact that when a client calls me, I say, can I text you? This is my cell phone. This is my personal cell phone number.
Yeah.
You can text me at night. You can call me on the weekends. I have a client, she's so sweet, first time home buyer, but she would text me at like 10 o'clock at night and you can tell it's kind of when her mind was spiraling. That was her thinking time. And she'd be like, I'm so sorry. I just thought of 3 questions. You don't have to respond until tomorrow if you don't want to. Well, if I'm just sitting around and watching football or hanging out, why wouldn't I respond? I know the answer and I would rather you get a good night's sleep and not sit and spiral any longer. So it's that relationship that I focus on, even though my job tends to be a little bit more digital than a real estate agent.
I mean, at the end of the day, back and forth, both lending and real estate, you're buying a best friend throughout your entire process. That's really what you're hiring someone to do, is having someone that knows all the questions you could possibly ever think of. And if they don't know it, they'll find out that answer for you. So like one of my clients recently, they were like, our HOA told us that we need to replace this shrub but they won't answer our phone calls back, and we don't know what kind of shrub. So, like, I called the HOA for them, and I'm doing phone tag, getting back to back. And just for them to say, oh, we don't care as long as it's not dead. Like, you wouldn't never known that, but there's so many HOAs that have that huge list of things they want.
Correct.
And another thing about having your personal cell phone is, I hate to say it, there is a lot of value in that blue bubble.
Oh my gosh, I know. So much. Yes. The rant of mine in my personal relationships and also business. But anytime I get a phone call, if I don't recognize it, even if it says spam likely, because I am in the sales business, so I answer my phone no matter what. But a lot of times if it says spam likely, I'll hit the text message button first just to see if one, if we've spoken before and I just hadn't saved their number, or two, if it turns green or blue. And if it turns blue, I automatically answer it because I know it's a real person. And if it turns green, sometimes I'll say like, hey, I'm in a meeting, I'll call you in 10 minutes just to see if they respond or what it is. But that's my way of kind of filtering out all of this 400 spam calls that I receive a day.
Oh my gosh. I wish there was a way that I could shut it off or something. Like, my cell phone rings, I counted 50 times a day is a good day. And it's because we have our numbers online.
Right. Oh, yeah. You can Google my phone number and every website and social media and podcast and interview and military, everything that I've done is associated with my phone number. So it's very public. That is for sure. But I think I think that's good for clients though.
Yes.
And I do try and answer my phone because I'll tell you, there was one time and I was in a mood. I was driving and I got 725 area code and it said spam likely. So I answered it kind of sassy, like driving, and I hit it and I'm like, what? Well, it was a client that had found my name on Google and they bought a $2 million house with me. And I was like, oh, I'm glad I answered that spam likely call. It ended up being a really good client. I was able to refer that to a local agent because they were up in Spark, Nevada. So I was like, oh, all right. I will learn from that mistake.
It's the way things work because there's no actual filtration system for it. Like, especially if they're getting your number from Google or like Yelp or something like that. If they're getting it from Yelp, it'll 100% every single time show up as spam likely. Because Yelp doesn't use your real phone number. They don't list your actual phone number on there. You click the button and it goes through a third party, which I don't like that process at all, but it is what it is.
Same. On Google, it shows you the password or the phone number. So if they manually enter it, like if they're looking at a computer, they can manually enter my cell phone number and it's accurate. But if they just hit the call button, it takes it through a third party. So it shows up as spam. So I've just learned, always answer your phone.
So when it comes to not vets, but active duty, when they're PCSing, what is some advice you'd give to someone that's PCSing? Because me and you, we've been through the PCS before. We've done the military moves, the Diddy moves, or unfortunately, letting the military move your stuff for you and having a box full of broken trinkets.
One of my PCSs, I did a Diddy, or I let the military move for me, and they put our trash can that was full of trash into a box and wrapped it. So when we got it 3 weeks later, it was quite smelly. I think we had just emptied the refrigerator and I didn't realize that I needed to take it to the dumpster because we were moving that day. So I had taken everything in my refrigerator to throw out and put it in a box, and then they boxed it up and shipped it to our new house.
Oh, that's military grade.
Yes.
I hate that military grade just means the cheapest and quickest and fastest and most efficient way to do it.
Correct. Yeah. Cheap, fast, and easy. That's not how I like to do things at all.
Yeah. But one thing that a lot of people don't get is if they're PCSing, you can either have two options. You can rent or use base housing, or you can purchase a house. And they're like, well, I'm only going to be there for 3 years. Why would I purchase a house? You can purchase one every single time you PCS. And by the time you get out of the military at 20 years, you have 5, 6 rental properties that you don't have to work anymore. You're done.
Yes. So I teach a class called the VA Millionaire, and it's instructing active duty soldiers or airmen to purchase a home every time they PCS. Besides Germany, I own a home at every single place I was stationed when I was in the military, including a 4-plex, 2 4-plexes, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So my biggest advice is be humble. Don't buy your dream home, your first duty station, right?
Yeah.
Get a condo. And then at the next duty station, get a townhouse. And then get a small single family. You don't need a 3-car garage when you're an E4. You know what I mean? Be humble. Don't try and like swing for the fences. But if you buy a home every time you PCS for 20 years, your retirement from the military is going to be peanuts
Yes.
on the rental income that you're going to have from all of those properties. Even if, let's say, you only get to like 5 or 6, why don't you own a home at Fort Benning and Fort Bragg and Fort Jackson? Because military are always going to be coming in and out. Those bases have been there forever. They're huge. It's only growing. It's the best places in the world to own a rental property. So why not buy it as a primary residence using your VA loan when you first get there?
Yeah, and a lot of times when you reach out to people from your old units, like time and time again, you can just be like, hey, do you have anyone that I need a rental for? You're never going to not have someone to rent those properties when they're in a close vicinity of base. You have those connections.
Yeah.
Use them. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, you have great renters all the time because people are always coming and going. And then also, and I don't know if this goes against like housing laws, but they're great renters. You know what I mean? Like they don't want you to call their commander. They have like codes of conduct that they have to follow even when they're renting a property. So you're going to have good renters that you know they're not going to lose their job tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're going to treat your home well. They're just the perfect renter to have.
Yeah.
So
especially while you're both active duty, because that does fall under the UCMJ. It does.
right. Yeah, I wasn't sure the exact legal ramifications of it, but yeah, there's no enlisted guy out there that wants you to call his commander because they destroyed your house. I have had zero behavior issues with any of my renters for 15, 20 years. Zero. I had a hurricane. That was it.
That's the worst.
Actual hurricane, but
I mean,
yeah.
having a hurricane move in, that's the worst renter you can possibly have.
Yep, absolutely. But no, that is my theory is use your VA loan as many times as you can. And you want that, like my goal is by the time I am retired from lending, which is never going to happen because I love my job. So it's one of those I'm never going to not answer my phone or be licensed. But even when I'm not grinding and I'm not wanting to build my business, I want 10 properties that are completely paid off. And I only lived in them for a year each. That's a really good income of retirement. I'm going to be able to see as many countries as I want on that income coming in. And my VA disability doesn't even come into play, and my actual W-2 income does not come into play.
I mean, that's the smartest way to use the VA loan.
Absolutely.
Now, outside of VA loan, outside of lending, you've gone through the transition process of getting out of the military, which is tougher and tougher and tougher as years goes on because we're trained to be a part of the military. And especially when you come in at 17, you learned all of your adult life skills while in the military. What's some advice for someone that's just starting to get out and they don't know anything else?
I think the biggest struggle that I had with the transition from military to civilian life was the employment and the leadership style. I was a leader and I led troops when I was in the military. And although I had struggles and I had to learn how to do that, it was much easier than then getting plopped into civilian life, where leading civilians is like herding cats, basically. I always tease, it's in the military, we all had the same playbook. So we always spoke the same language. And leading in civilian is like showing up to football practice where half of them haven't read the playbook and 2 of them thought they were showing up to bowling night. Like it's just complete chaos. So that was difficult as far as like my employment and leading. My biggest advice for transitioning from military to civilian is to, and I say this delicately, but separate yourself from the military as fast as possible and kind of compartmentalize that part of your life. I think that's the reason why I had so much success, because I got out and it was kind of like, all right, that's part of my past. Here I am as a complete whole person as a civilian. And I was able to, I mean, I struggled even telling people that I was a veteran for a little while because I really wanted to immerse myself in that civilian life. And it helped me to not dwell, and it helped me with my PTSD, and it helped me to kind of compartmentalize that this is a new chapter of my life. And then years later, after I had kind of completed that transition and was feeling very comfortable and confident as a civilian, Then I was able to dip my toe back into like the veteran community and get involved with all of the veteran services and the military life. I was able to go back in and be a proud veteran. But probably spent 2 or 3 years as a civilian kind of focusing on that. And I really do think that that helped with my transition, because I see veterans that struggle now, and they've been out for 4 years, and then being a veteran is the first thing out of their mind, or first thing out of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It's their best memories. It's all of their friends, and they haven't even given civilian life a total shot. And I think that's the reason why they're struggling with civilian life, because they're like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and that hurts to see.
It's really hard just because you're right. You did have that friend group. You had that family. You had those people with you side by side, day in, day out. And now you realize once you're out, a lot of them, unless you're a tight,
Mm-hmm.
they won't even return a text or a phone call. But that's the thing. They've moved on in their portion of their life. The hard pill to swallow is when you're transitioning, it's time for you to move on as well.
Absolutely. I think that even people that don't have like a combat PTSD type,
Mm-hmm.
I think that I call it the I used to be cool-ism. Like, that was hard as a civilian to be like, I used to be cool. Like, I used to be a 50 cal gunner. I used to do all of these awesome deployments. I used to live in Germany. And now here I am, this like basically base level civilian with no cool civilian stories. And you kind of like, it's like being a homecoming king or queen, you know what I mean, in high school. Like, you peaked a little bit, and so it's kind of hard to like get away from that peak and be like, all right, now I have to be successful in this new chapter of my life and start completely over.
Yeah.
Like, but I used to be cool.
And there's so many programs out there and resources and classes when you're transitioning that people don't really take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
People don't use VRNE like they should. People don't use their VA benefits when it comes to education like they should. They don't use their post 9/11 like they should.
Mm-hmm.
It's there for you for a reason. You earned it. You served your nickel. You did it.
Yeah, you signed your name on the dotted line, and you should be able to take advantage of any of the services that are out there. My biggest problem with the services out there is that there's too many of them, and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
There's so much there, which is amazing, but also I can't even keep track. I mean, I don't even remember the name of the program. I met a vet the other day at Leatherneck, and he told me about a program. He said, "Oh, you've used Dodge or something." I was like, "What's that?" And he told me about it. I was like, "Never heard of it."
Yeah.
And I'm very involved in the veteran community. Never heard of it. So there's a lot. It's very overwhelming.
And it's really hard too because all the vernacular that you have when you're active, all those same programs are still there. They're just called something different because every single branch had their own version of it.
Right.
There's TAPS,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not called TAPS when you get out. You have individualized classes for every single thing, and it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. They really do need to have some sort of another program
Mm-hmm.
that combines all of the services, whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, all of that, and have like all right, you've already ETS'd, but now you have a year of volunteer classes that you can go to, and all it does is teach you how to use your benefits post-military service.
That'd be great. I was talking to my buddy Clayton about this, and I was like, what is something that we can do to really help out vets when they're transitioning? If they did an optional 1-year transition,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm talking, take SkillBridge and put it on steroids to where if you wanted to work at somewhere on base but still stay in the barracks for a year and get your education rocking and rolling, that should be an option. To have those classes, not just TAPS, because people go to TAPS to get out of work for a week,
Right.
but something where you can actually get involved, get your hands on, get some skills. Like, you should be able to not have to go through the hurdles and headaches of getting into SkillBridge or getting in to use your tuition assistance while you're in to learn those skills, because 9 times out of 10, young airmen and young soldiers don't use that the way it needs to be because they're not in that mindset yet. They're not thinking, I'm ready to get out.
Right.
They're thinking, this is vacation.
Well, and the other thing is that, especially my personal story, when I got out, it was a little bit of a senioritis where I was having a tough time with my unit at the moment, which is actually the reason I decided to ETS, because I didn't want to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have any other options. And so when it came to me doing, it wasn't TAPS. What does the Army call it? Whatever it is, whatever their transition class is called. I was so in like an FU mode that I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to hear what they had to say. I didn't want their advice. They couldn't tell me anything because I thought I was smarter and I was a little salty at the time. And I think a lot of people, when they ETS, they have a little bit of that like salty mentality. If they had come to me a year later and said, hey, you've been out for a year. We have this class that's totally voluntary. If you want to come and take it, it teaches you. After a year of me kind of like calming down and settling down, I absolutely would have done it. But 3 days before you sign out of the military and you're having to turn in all your uniforms and your helmet's not clean enough and your weapon's not clean enough and you're just done, that is not the time to tell me how to use my VA benefits.
No.
I was completely checked out. So they should have something that's even 5 years later. Can I go back and take this class and learn about my benefits?
I wish there was, but
We
there's
should
not.
start something.
We
We're
should.
onto something.
I know, but that's the other side of it too, is getting those connections on. They won't let you
They
teach
won't let you
anything
on
unless
base.
you're a government contractor because there's too many risks involved. So it's a back and forth. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, and I see the problem, right? There's too many for-profit companies out there, and I'm for-profit. Like I work in the VA and the veteran mines and all that, but I'm a for-profit company. I'm not doing this for free. So I understand that. And they don't want 400 lenders and 400 realtors and everybody to say they're the expert to go and advertise on base. And I understand it, but they really do need one resource where everybody can where they can get vetted and everyone can put all of their resources together to at least be able to educate our young airmen and soldiers when they do get out.
Yeah, and I only know of one program that's starting. They're still on the ground floor baseline level. They are a nonprofit, but they're called Bunker Bros.
I like that name.
Yeah, so they're building an app. So where you have your veteran businesses, you have your veterans who just want to be on there to connect with their friends. And then they have the other side of it is where if you're a veteran that you're in crisis, you can press a button and it'll go, okay, is there anyone within 1 mile that wants to go help them? 2 miles, 3 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles.
Amazing.
And it will just shoot out like a ping, boom, 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 boom. And then whoever answers the call, you can go meet up and go grab coffee and be like, hey, this is something I'm going through. And they're adding those things in there so you can connect to veterans who are in like lending, are in like the trades, doing HVAC, everything like that. So it's a really interesting project that I'm really excited to see get off the ground. They're just breaking I think they're in the final processes of R&D right now, which is really cool.
Okay. I have never heard of anything like that. So that will be definitely something that's new. And I like the idea of bringing resources in the nonprofits and the businesses, but then also like the human connection. Almost think it's like Hinge, but for battle buddies.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too.
Yeah.
There's a place for profit. There's a place for nonprofits. And there's also a place for not for profits.
Right.
Those are different things. And
Absolutely.
a lot of people don't know about them.
Yep.
But before we close out, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on a little bit that I missed out on that you wanted to say to anyone listening right now?
I'd like to talk about the housing market just for a moment.
Yeah.
And just not necessarily a misconception, but I speak to people all day long that are thinking about buying a home, right? They call me first, and sometimes they decide not to, and sometimes they go with somebody else, and that's fine. But I probably have 50 conversations a week with people who are thinking about wanting to buy a home. And I get a lot of the same responses, and this is kind of my script, as you will, when I'm speaking to somebody that wants to buy a house. There are 3 kinds of people. There are the people that renting is best for you, and that's okay. Homeownership is not for everybody. If you are have an unstable job where you might move at any moment, or if you are just the kind of person that likes to wander and they might move at any moment just for fun, or your business doesn't allow it, or there's a million reasons why you can rent, and that's okay. I'm not shaming renters. If you're not part of that group and you want to buy a home, now there's 2 other people. First category is somebody that wants the stability. They want to be a homeowner. They want to have their kids stay in the same school district for 10, 15 years, and they just want to buy a home to be a homeowner. That's wonderful. Those people need to not look at the market, not look at interest rates, not look at any of the chaos that they see on the news. They need to find the home, not house. They need to find the home that is right for them and their family and buy it. If they can afford the monthly payment and that it's good for their budget, buy it. Don't listen to any of the other chaos or noise. If that you're going to be in it for 10 years, all of the numbers will even out eventually, and you're going to be so glad that you didn't waste all that money on rent. And then there's the third category, the people like me. I like real estate as a game. It is fun for me. I want to own multiple homes. I want them all paid off. I am playing the game, but I always say it's like double dutch. You can't play if you stand on the sideline. So if you want to get into real estate because you want to be a future investor or landlord or the VA millionaire, also don't pay attention to all of the numbers and rates and fees and all that chaos. Just buy the freaking house. You'll figure it out later. I've bought a couple of homes where 2 years later I thought that probably wasn't the best one, still sold it for a profit, took that profit and found the one I wanted. I was doing it as a game though, so it wasn't that serious, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I'm not moving a family of 4. So either way, you either pick the home that you love for your family or you pick the house because it's a good investment and I'd rather somebody pay my mortgage in their rent or you're the renter. Either way, stop listening to all the noise and chaos. Stop listening to your sister's cousin's neighbor that was a real estate agent in the 80s and talk to the local experts.
I love it. Caitlin, thank you so much for spending the Wrap Show here with me today. I appreciate it. And that's it.
Thank you. Rapture.
You